and I want to type collab.research.google.com. Guys, you know this platform, and because we have already practiced with this platform, and if you have your own editor, Python editor like PyCharm or any notebook for Python coding, please feel free to use, because there are many platforms. So it's up to you that which platform you wish to continue. So if you have, let's say, Anaconda on your own machine, yeah, please go ahead with Anaconda. If you have PyCharm, if you have Colab, if you have AWS accounts, you know, whatever you have, I mean, giving you this chance to start coding Python, please go ahead with that. So, and I want to say this is lecture 3. And I want to go through conditional statement, if else. Okay, great. Okay, let me see. Transcript, no, we don't need that. Okay, no worries. Okay, great. So guys, also we have, you know, this session, I mean, the session is under recording and you can, you know, review the session afterwards. So for today, and let me turn off my video. I guess the light of the office is not really good. Okay, because there is a light behind me. Okay, no worries. So, boys and girls, the two requirement for any, you know, any programming is to learn how to write, you know, logical statement, is conditional statements and loops and iterations. So these are two logical part of coding, and we also need them to learn to how to apply them, you know, in Python. So guys, conditional statement, loops and iteration, the concept is same with any programming language. The only difference is syntax. So in Python, we have to practice to how to write these, you know, blocks. And because before starting, I mean, the case study analysis, I mean, using real case data sets, you know, for analysis, we still need to, you know, to learn some requirement like if then else and loops and iteration, and also plotting means visualization, that I want to take visualization for next week. So after these 3 sessions that we have to work with, you know, the requirement. Last week we worked with like data structures, and then, you know, this week conditional statement, loops and iteration, and next week visualization. And then from week 5 we can start working with, you know, with data set or database analysis using Python, you know, and we will work with, you know, computing, or let's say business questions, inquiries that we have to take them into consideration with Python. And it's going to be really interesting topics, you know, for week 5 and afterwards. Okay, let's do start conditional statement. So when we talk about conditional statement, it means we need to check a statement. We need to add a logic into the code, right, to be able to manage the code. And it gives us this ability to control a statement, to control our code based on different inputs, you know, based on inputs we are given, you know, by end user, or, you know, by after, let's say, a few calculations. So for a condition, so it, you know, that it's using if and else. So for if we use if, we have a condition that we need to have at least one direction of if, means if it's true, then we have to do a statement, we have to have action. In this case, if it's true, do one statement, and if it's false, do, you know, another statement. And you know that you can have more than 2 conditions, you know, you can separate your conditions, and you can do you know, the proper action against the condition. So for if statement, it's really simple. You just need to say if, and the condition, and we need to have colon. And this block, that is your action, is important because in Python you must be very careful about justification. I mean, once you have like this block, we call it a block. So anything related to if, it must be inside the block. I mean, for instance, if you say if, let's say I don't know, this is just a random name. If a is 0, or let's say yes, if you put colon, once you press enter, just look at the cursor. Cursor is going to have one tab space, right, between if and where you have to type, because it means you have to put it inside if condition. If you bring it back and if you write it here exactly left justified, then this statement doesn't consider inside if. So you must be very careful about that. So colon and then enter, then you can write whatever you want, right? It means here, can you see guys, anything we write here, they are in if block, right? These are in the if block. Okay, let's move on. So this is a very, simple example that is going to get two inputs, two values, and do division. So it says, please enter two numbers to divide. So dividend, as you can see, we get input. So from previous week, input means get value from end user. Please enter the first number to divide, and divisor is please enter the second number to divide. So here we have to check for second number, because divisor shouldn't be 0. If divisor is 0, then we will face with buffer overflow error, right? This is the system error. So if divisor is not 0, so then print this message and also calculate this division, right? Dividend divided by divisor, right? So let's run this, this example. If you run it, so first line it says please enter two numbers to divide. So please enter two numbers to divide is good. Then please enter the first number to divide, this one. So we entered number 10. For second one, we entered number 4. Right, and then once you enter, since divisor is not 0, it's going to print dividend, which is 10, and then this one slash sign means there is division, and then print out divisor, which is number 4, and then dividend divided by divisor is 2.4. Okay, that makes sense, is okay. But the thing is where we enter a wrong input. So here we have, first input 10 and second input is 0. It says if divisor is not 0, print this message. Since divisor is 0, can you see we have nothing here, right, without output. So this is the case that we as a data analyzer, we must be very careful to control input, right, from end user or from whenever you want to get input for your calculation. So in this case you need to have your conditional statement with else. Else means if. Else means this if statement, this condition is not met, right, it's not satisfied. So then we can go over else block, and this is the thing we can do that. So if we come here, and can you see the only difference is we could add else, right? This is else. We could add it here. So if divisor is not 0, so do this calculation, this division. Else means divisor is 0, and the division by 0 is not allowed. So guys, if you look at here, this is an example, because we can also input let's say if we enter a minus value like -4 for divisor. So if divisor is -4 is not 0, so still we have this chance to run it. This if else is going to help to avoid system error by buffer overflow. So the only problem here is 0. So it was simple because the only statement that we have to check is number 0, and with one else we could sort it out. Sometimes we need to add more else's, and that's the reason we call it nested condition. So if you look at here, it's going to say, so please enter integer in the range of 0 to 999. If number is, greater than 0, then we can go through these statements. Can you see, guys? Everything is one tab front. Let me do here for you. If you say num greater than 0, then if you press enter, then you are one tab front. So if, let's say, num is, this is another condition. I want to check first if it's greater than 0. If it's greater than 0, I want to check if it's less than 999. If it's less than, then we would say print, something. So, and then if you want to add else, so after pressing enter, you have to go back one, use your left arrow, come back, and then exactly under if you have to say else. So it means this else is for this if, right? Please make sure to do it. And then in front of else, you need also colon, and then you have to press again enter, and it's going to say print, whatever you want. So since this is only one line of action, you can also put it in front of else. You don't need to go to the new line. Even for this one, right? You can keep it in front of if. But for, more readability, let's do all of them in separate lines. So what about this if? If you want to add else for first if, you have to go back, and then exactly, in left justified of first if, you have to say else, right? And then, or print, or whatever you want, any action. So this is the way that we have to code in Python, right? It means this is a block for if, this is block for else, and also this is the block, for the second if, and so on. Okay, let's move on. So, guys, the simple way of if then else, we can use it for like troubleshooting. We can use it, for instance, for NHS app. So let's say you're going to NHS app, you want to book appointment with NHS. So once you go to NHS app, it's going to ask you about, the symptom, and then based on the symptom, it's going to get you into something like this flowchart and find out, what is the best action or best treatment, against your symptom. So as you can see, with if then else, with conditional statement, you can write even advanced applications like troubleshooting, like NHS, any kind of application that's going to interact with end user, right? To get input, like where are you? You have to put your location, and then you say how is the weather? You have to put your input, and then based on the input is going to give you proper answer. And this is what exactly we do for this one. So implement a simple troubleshooting program that a computer technician might use to diagnose a fault. So even yeah, this is like the app. It's going to ask you, for instance, you have Dell laptop, you're facing with problem, right? You want to call customer service. Customer service put you into automatic answer, right? And that automatic answer is going to ask you, has power? You have to say yes or no. If you say yes, then it's going to give you like seek other help, for instance. If it's no, then it's going to ask you, second question, is plugged in? Based on your input, no or yes, it's going to, give you other options, and so on. So it's simple part of coding, if then else, but you can do really, great jobs. So for that example, this is the code that I've been written, and as you can see, it's going to get input, and as you can see, the troubleshooting control logic starting from here. If choice is no, because if you say yes, it means there is no problem. If it's no, then it's going to take you into troubleshooting. So if you press no, then you have to ask for another question. What is that? Is it plugged in? This one is plug in, no or yes. So if you say, if your choice is no, then it's going to give you proper answer. You can take it. If it's yes, means else, it's going to ask you again another question. Is this one right? You said yes. It's going to ask, is the switch on? If it's no, it's going to print out, this message. If it's yes, it's going to again ask you another question. So till, to finish this troubleshooting. And this is the thing, you need that. And if you want to run it, please, copy paste this code from here into Google Colab. So please open Google Colab, boys and girls like me, and try to, implement this code. So simply copy this code. Just let me, copy this code and bring it inside. Oh no, this is really bad, because guys, we must be very careful, or maybe because we have to have that space. Copy with, no, there is no search in sidebar, no. Okay guys, if you copy this one, so as I said, you should be very careful that have this tab right in front of that. So it's better to do it in tutorial session, because guys, as you can see here, we have to follow exactly the same, these white spaces. You have to have one tab space for each if statement. So if you want to practice, maybe you can start from beginning, right? You can have your own code, you have to write your own word, and you can type it there, right? You can type it there. But since if then else is really simple logic, is simple concept, that's the reason I don't want to take you into the details, right? Because it's really simple to understand. By the way, the example 3 is here for this, code. If you want to have more practice, you can go through this one to be able to copy and paste it. So multi-way decision statement. So guys, as I said, the if then else is not only one if, one else. Even you can have conditional statement after else, like this example. It's going to ask you, input, please enter an integer in the range of 0 to 5. So if value is less than 0, means too small. You can print it out and go, and finish your execution. Else, if is, can you see after else we have if. Else, if value is 0, then print 0. Else is if, so we can do it. It's simple. So value. So please do this practice with me, guys. Please follow me here, and I want to have your interaction, guys. Please do this practice with me, and if you have any question, simply type it in chat box, or turn on your microphone, unmute your microphone, and let's see what is your question. So let's do that. Int input. So I want to ask, please enter an int value like between 0 and 5. So then here I want to say if value is less than 0, so colon, guys, once you press enter, it's going to take you into next line, and there is a tab space, as you can see. Print like too small, something like that. But I need to have, you know, else partition. So once you enter, it's going to keep you exactly with the same, you know, tab space. But since we have to write else, you should put it one backspace or maybe two backspace and type else colon and then press enter. If value is 0 colon. So if I press enter, can you see it's going to be one tab space front of if. So print like 0, something like that, if is 0. So I want to keep continuing, right, by adding more if and else. So if I press enter, so I have to back here because I want to add else, you know, for this if. So I have to say else. So if you put it there, it's going to give you guys this else is going to be considered of this else, right? It means if after this else it's going to run this one, and then it's going to continue this way, but it gives you a logical error. So better to keep it, you know, back to back, to mention like this else is for this if with left justified. This else is for this if with left justified, and so on. So if you say else, so for this else I want to check another if value is like 1 and then print, let's say 1. So single quote or double quote, no difference. So again, enter, I want to add another else. So else is for this if, else. Right, guys, we can add, you know, one by one. Let's finish it by here, like value is 2, right? And then I want to say print 2, and I want to add the final else here. Oh, sorry, if I did mistake. Else if value is 2, and then this one, right? And at the end, else means I want to add, if it's not 0, if it's not 1 or 2, print, you know, value. And it's going to be like nested if and else. So if it's going to be long, like this one, the easiest way is to convert else if to elif, like this one. Elif means else if. So it means just delete this colon, bring if top, and make it elif. Right? It's really simple now. So remove it and say elif. Here you would say elif and done, right? Since this else has no if, then you can, you know, leave it as it is. So with this way, you know, converting else if to elif, you could reduce the number of lines of code. So you can see elif, make it really simple. So this is exercise. Write a program using if-else statements to grade the marks for a class with 20 students. So I want to give you guys 5 minutes to see your code. Please go through this exercise now, and let's do it within 5 minutes. I want to double check if you get the concept of this if then else. So let's do it in 5 minutes. I want to mute my microphone for 5 minutes, and then I want to check your answer. If you get any answer, if you get any code, you know, you can take a screenshot and share it in chat box, and then we will check, you know, and we will see your solution. Okay, guys, let's do. And if you have any question, please raise it here, because this 5 minutes is like, doing exercise, asking question and whatever. So let's do it, this exercise 1 in 5 minutes. Any question? Anything you want to share with me here? So, guys, for this exercise, we have this list, right? If you remember from last week, this is data structure we call list. So how we can, mark it as list because of, this bracket, open bracket and close bracket means this is a list. So the task here is to give them, the actual grade. Like if, this student with this mark 83, since he's greater than 75, is a first grade. Like for 55, it's third grade, right? And we have to do it for all these, for all these marks. So to do so, guys, we have to declare this mark. So I've done that. Also, we need another list because I have to add grades. So grades, another list. So it's empty list. So shift enter means we declared, these two variables. So one thing is called, we have to go over these list marks and get them one by one, and then put the actual grade, right? So how to do so, guys? We need to write the for loop, right? Why we have to write the for loop? But this is programming skill, and you know better than me because this is a list, or let's say this is an array. If you want to consider all elements, you have to write a for loop starting from first index and traverse it till end, right? So it means start for. I want to give mark just as a as an index in marks. So let me do it marks list and grade list. I guess it's better. Okay, run again. Okay, here marks list and then colon. So once you enter, is going to say we have to check if mark is greater than or equal to 75. Guys, we have to implement this table, right? Greater than 75. Colon. Then grade list. Guys, this is a list. If you remember from last week, I've said if you want to append a value inside the list, there is a function we call append, right? Append. So, and then append first, as the grade is first. So please follow me, guys. If you want to practice, please do. And yeah, please do this practice with me. Okay, if mark is 75, then into this list, you know, append first. Then we have to check else if, right? Else if here, I want to say elif. Elif mark is, I'm going to check, you know, second condition. It says between 70 and 75. So I want to say 70 equals or less than and 75 greater than. If it's that one, so let me copy this line because I have to repeat that. So elif it's this one, then grade append, what should I say? I should say upper second. So and then elif 60, I should, you know, do it for this third grade, second, between 60 and 70. It's 70, right? And then we have to say append second. So to make it easy, you can copy these two lines because I can paste here because the first part is 50 and 60. So 50 and 60, and I have to say third. So let me paste another one. 50, 60, and 45, and 50. What should I say? I should say F1 support. Let's add another one. If it's between 40 and 45, I would say F2 is a flag, is a sign. If it's less than 40, so for less than 40, we don't need to add if, right? You would say easily else because this is the last condition. If mark is none of these, and then it's going to, you know, calculate this else, right? So grade list, and then here we would say F3. Okay, great. We have done that. And once you have done, please make sure to come, you know, to press enter to make, you know, like some white spaces here for readability. And here we would say print. Then I have to print this one, grade list, or I would say grade list. Sorry, grade list, simply. And if you run, so can you see, guys? It could, you know, generate, you know, these grades. So first, because of, you know, 83 and 75, they are greater than 75 or equal to 75. That's the reason we have first and first. For 74.9 and 70, these are between 70 and 75. That's the reason they are considering as upper second, and that's the reason we have upper second, and so on. And since these marks are like have been written in one row, we can do something like this: print a grade list from previous session last week. I said we have separator, means separate each value with comma, right? And if you run it, can you see here? Now all values are in one single row. Instead of writing the element in the column, visualization, you can put it in a row visualization. Okay, loops and iteration. So within the first part, we went through conditional statement to see how we can control code and so on. Here we have loops and iteration, means we want to repeat the action, right? We want to repeat something accordingly. So how to do that? This is also, the concept is same, as compared to other programming languages. You need to use loop. You have to use for loop. So if you want to use for in Python, you have to declare an index like I here, and then after index we have in, and then your list, right? Means your input, your array, your list, your dictionary, any type of data structure you use. And then here, if you say for I in, this list, then print the number is I, and then print out of loop. So, and also, as you can see, after a colon, once you enter, this print is going to jump one tab space to make it as a block for loop. So first of all, I is 5. It's going to say the number is 5. Then I is 4. It's going to say the number is 4 till reach out number 1. So number 1 is here and is done, and then go through print out of loop. So if you remember from last week, we use slicing to get access to specific values within a list. So now we have same concept with begin, end, and step, but here we have range. So range is going to generate a list of values between begin and end, and this is the step, means incremental step, right? So for instance, here, if you say range 10, let me type range 10. Okay, let me go over here. So range 10. So since there is only one number means end value. So if you don't have begin and step, they are begin is 0. This is a default value for begin, and default value for step is number 1. So, but for range, we need end. If you say range 10, it's going to start from 0 to 10, but make sure one number less than 10, right? For instance, if you say range 10, it's going to consider, 0 to 9. I'm using parentheses to, 10. It means 10 is not considering, right? It means it's going to be 0 to 9. Right, these are same. So, and the step is 1. You can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till 9. So if you say 1 and 10, it's same as first one. 1 is begin, 10 is end, and if you don't have step is 1, right? Default value, starting from 1 to 9. So here it says 1, 10, 2. 1 is starting value, you can see is 1. So 10 is last value, and incremental step is 2. Means 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 2 7. 7 plus 2 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. So 11 is beyond the length of the array, which is 10, right? So that's the reason we have to stop at number 9. So also we can have, in reverse indexing, like slicing we practiced last week. So means start from 10 before reaching number 0. This is incremental step -1, means reduce 1 by 1. 10, 9, 8, 7 till 1. And again, 0 is not considering. We have to consider 1 less, and so on. So why we need that? Because here we want to practice here for loops. So if you say for x, guys, if I here say I want to practice here to be understandable. So if I say range 5 and run it, shift enter, So it's just going to tell you range 0, 5. So how to print out, values after this range? You have to use for loop. So for like x in range 5, right? Colon, make sure to have colon and then enter. So again, we have white, let's say we have a tab space and then print x. And if you run it, and then it's going to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a column-based visualization. If you want to have like row-based, again, you need to separator, and separator is, let's say, space, or you want to add comma, whatever. It means after each value, use this separator, space, white space. Don't enter, don't make new line. Oh no, it didn't. Let me check. I have to say end. Right. Because these are all one values. There is no separator. That's the reason sep was wrong. I have to say end means end of each line. End of each line. After this line, don't go to next line. Add white space, right? And this is what exactly we can see. Or here, I in range 3 and 6. So when we say 3 and 6, it's going to be something like that. 3 and 6, right? And then what is the incremental step is 1, because we didn't mention. So we would say 3, 4, 5, right? This is the output. And it's going to print it out. Print I is, and then, I is the index. Or, different type of, calculations for X in range. And then we can do this one. Also, this one, guys, these, let's say these bunch of codes, they are for learning purposes. I put them deliberately as a picture, as a photo, to do not be able to, copy them, right? You have to type them. That's the reason. You should see them firstly, try to understand. If you didn't get that, try to type it in Jupyter Notebook. Type it, run it, and see the output, right? Otherwise, because you cannot memorize them, right? These are not for memorizing. These are for learning by practice. So here we say for I in range 0, 10, 2. 0, 10, 2 means start from 0, right? Reach to 10 by incremental step of 2, right? This would be 2, 4, 6, 8, and then we can't add 10 because the last value would be 9, right? And we are going to go through 0, 1, oh, sorry, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. And try to practice this piece of code as well. And if you couldn't understand, please use my comments. If it's still not understandable, we can discuss on tutorial session on Thursday, and also for this one. So here I'm asking a word from end user, input, enter a word. So word would be your input, like Python. So once you say for, so letter here is index. For letter in word, so letter is going to pick P, then Y, then T, then H, then O, and N. So that's the reason we have this output, right? And these are practices for that. So say Happy New Year to a list of friends. So if you have, let's say I have 4 friends, and first of all, I have to create a list to put them all together, in one data structure. Then you have to create index here, my friends, in friends. It means, first of all, my friends is Emmy, then is Julie, then Ali, then Dan, right? And then you can simply say Happy New Year and then the name of the index that's coming from here. So exercise. So let's do it together now. Count the number of vowels in a text. So let's see how we can count the number of vowels in a text. So is there any idea about that? So okay, please follow me here. Please follow me here. Everyone, please follow me here. Open your Jupyter notebook and let's do this practice together. Okay. So first of all, it's better. Yeah, let's ask input from end user. So Word would be input. Let's say enter a text. Let's say something like that. Yeah. Or enter a phrase. I don't know, whatever. So then, for instance, let's say end user is let's entering like computing for business, something like that. So what we have to do, we have to go through each letter like C, O, M, P, one by one, and double check how many vowels we have. So to double check, we have to say for let's say C in Word. So C is the index. So this one's, it comes from this one. I want to implement this one exactly. Loops in characters. Can you see? I'm going to do this one, loops in characters. So I have to check the vowels. So how to check vowels? So if C is equal to A or, right, means A or is equal to E, right? Why not to consider, guys, I'm using space to make it, user friendly. So let me add or, and I want to add capital A as well, capital E, because maybe let's say the end user is going to input lowercase and uppercases. So guys, I want to add I and O, right? Because A, E, if I remember correctly, A, E, I, and O, right? These are part of, vowels, right? These are, let me say, vowels. Yeah, these are the vowels. Okay. So I'm gonna to copy this one. Better to guys, it would be really long line if I put them here, right? It's going to be very long if, so I'm using backspace, means I want to continue to next line, right? And then I putting exactly here. I want to say, so why not to put it uppercase and lowercase together, this one. And then here I want to say I and I and lowercase of O and uppercase of O. So make sure to add or here. And okay, it's done now. So let me also delete this one. So colon. So now we are inside if. So we have to count them, right? How to count them? Let's firstly print them. Print C and then comma. And then I want to say end because I want to put them back to back, means print the vowels. Yeah, print the vowel. Okay, great. And then also we have to count them, right? Because it says count. So how to count them? I want to say vowel count is 0. And then here I want to say after print, I want to say this one plus 1. So guys, you would say this one plus 1 means add one, yeah, add it, increment it, or you can use this one. Is a simplest way. This one, right? These are same. By the way, let's use this one, and then we have to go outside for loop and we have to print how many, because it says count them. So now I have to use, let's say let's do something like that. This is a message, and then vowel count, right? And then this one, and then okay, let's run to see what's going on here. So okay, I want to give you 2 minutes to complete, you know, this code on your side. So again, we are going to ask end user to enter a phrase, and then with this one we want to go through each letter, right? And then we want to check if it's lower a, upper A, lower E, upper E, or I or O. Print, you know, print that vowel, right? Print the vowel, and then we can, you know, increment it because we are going to count them. This is a counter, right? This is a counter. And then at the end, print out the number of values. Okay. Okay, let's run. Let's say I want to enter computing for business. Okay, when you run, can you see that it says there is firstly, so it's not considering there is O, so it's printing O. So then MP, oh yeah, MPUTI, can you see we have I? That's the reason it's printing I. NG, no space, no F, no O, because these are in the if else condition is here, right? O. And then print out O and print out I here from business, right here. And then print out E. So, but can you see OI, OIE? And then it says there are 5 because we have been counting, right? Vowel count is 5. So why not to say separate by space? Yeah, this one. And once you run, and it says computing for business. Oh, yeah, better to say this one. Vowels. Okay, I guess it's better output now. Okay, or whatever. Let's say type my name. ID says 2, 4, 5. Oh, but why everything is 5? So let me say just computing. So there are 2. Can you see? There are 2 vowels. So this is exercise 1. Any question about this exercise?
Sir, I would like to know why we don't have a U. I know that we first put A.
Okay, I mean, if you want to add U, it's
Okay.
up to you. You can add them here because I said you can add them. Yeah, you're right. If you want, you can add them here. So like, or let's make it user friendly. So you can add them lowercase and uppercase. Oh, sorry, there are 2. Right?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, let's move on. So guys, if you want to have your loop, okay, we call some typical loops as indefinite condition with indefinite condition. It means we don't have any, like we don't have word to check. We don't have anything. We don't have list. We don't have variable to check. We want to go through a loop, repeat the loop until a condition is met, right? That for that one we call while loop. So for instance here, we have total is number 10. we would say while total is greater than 0. Guys, you can simply remember it from your Java lectures, even last year modules if you were working with programming. So this is while loop, right? So in any programming language, if you use C, C++, MATLAB, Java, anything, while is while, means the concept is same. So while total is greater than 0 or equal to 0, so we have to repeat this statement, right? Print value, and then make sure to, guys, we have to check, or let's say we have to control this condition, this loop condition. So here I'm adding total -1 because we have to start from 10, 9 to 0. And then once it's going to be -1, then we have to jump out of while. So it's really important for while loop, we have to add a line, right, to finish the loop, right, to jump out of the loop. So here, like, so here in for loop, we don't need to do that because for has you know starting point and end point because of the word here, right? But in while we don't have something like for loop, so for that reason you have to add this, you know, this condition. So guys, what do you think if I remove this line, if I remove total equal total -1, what do you think, what will be happen? This is programming, I mean, concept not relevant to Python. What do you think if I remove this line, total equal total -1? So I'm saying total is 10 while total is, let's say, greater than 0, colon, here, right, print total. Let's say the value is total, right? Okay, and then let me firstly do that. Total is total -1, and here we will say print out of loop. So if you run, okay, it's great, right? 10, 9 till 1, because we said if total is greater than 0, and then out of loop. So I'm going to remove this one. So if you run, so can you see it's going to print 10, 10, 10, 10. Can you see? We call it indefinite loop, and this is not really good. It's going to make your CPU and memory busy because there is no any end condition. You have to add the end condition to while loop. So let me stop it. Okay, can you see, guys? Even I can't. Oh my God. Let me stop. So yes, can you see it's like something like buffer overflow problem. So if you don't have this conditional statement, it's going to be like small virus. So what does it mean? For instance, you can write these simple lines of code like this one without total. Without total. So you can have it, and then from file you can download it as a PI, or you can convert it to exe file or bat file, and then send it by WhatsApp or send it by email to someone else and ask him or her to run this code, to run this application, you know. And then this simple application is going to make CPU and memory busy, right? And then it's going to, but this is just one single value to type. Maybe here you can print 128 megabyte, 128 bytes of values. I mean, 2 power, where is power? 2 power 128. So you can print out, you know, the huge item, the huge value, and it's going to be like a virus. You can send it to someone that you want to bother him or her, and then you can see how it's going to be like a virus. An antivirus cannot detect that because this is not the virus. This is not, let's say these are not in the blacklist of viruses. These are like very simple, or let's say they are like a worm. So you can write it and send it to someone you want to bother him or her, and then check, how the CPU is going to be engaged, with this thing. And at the end, you have to use Alt Control Delete to shut this application. So by the way, I mean, we must be very careful for while loop to add condition, to end the condition. So interactive while loop, let's practice more here. Okay, let me. So enter a sequence of non-negative integers. The user ends the list with the negative integer. At the end, the sum of the non-negative numbers entered is displayed. So it says, let's start by asking a user by enter a non-negative number. So you can print it out as a message to an user to know what he or she needs to do. Enter numbers to sum negative number ends list. While entry is, positive, not negative. So it's better to declare entry 0, for the first start to check, let's say to control the loop. So then entry is the input. Here we ask user, right? Print it, and then here we ask user. User enter a value. If entry is 0 or larger than 0, means the number is not negative. Then sum it, right? Means add it together. And then we have to repeat that till. So guys, you have to think about where to close the while loop. So if you want to close the while loop, you have to have if statement inside the while, right? This if statement is going to check if there is something out of the control, if there is something that we don't need to consider, then simply jump outside the while. So if entry is larger than 0, then repeat that. If it's not, it's going to jump out of the while. So, and simply make sure to, rewrite this code on your in your side, guys. This is a practice you have to do, or you can do it in tutorial session, right? I'm explaining these codes to be able to work with them in the tutorial session. So these are the input 5, 4, 17. When we have -4, that's a negative number, it's going to check the if entry is larger than 0. No, since it's not, and entry is -4 and -4 is not greater than 0, it's going to jump out of the while and print. So print this sum1 that we gather, we have gathered before here. So exercise 2, we can do that in the tutorial session, get the number and get the number and only count digits that are either 0 or 5. So what does it mean? It means, let's say we have number like num, I don't know, let's say the long value. Let me see again, count digits, okay. Like, I don't know, this is just input, right? The long number. And then we have to count how many 0, right? And how many number 5 there are, right? These are the things we have to consider. Okay, this is exercise 2 we will do on Thursday. Okay, the break statement. This is really nice part of for loop. So let's say within your loop, you are gonna to break your for loop whenever you are facing with exception, right? What is that exception? Like here, I have a list. I want to check if the number is odd number, immediately exit the loop. That's the reason. If I, the remainder by 2 is 1, means the value is odd. Break. So guys, whenever you use break, it's going to, and if it's met, it's going to stop your code and jump outside of your loop, right? And that's the reason. If you print I for this 4, and once you run this code, it's going to firstly check I is 12. So 12, the remainder by 2 is 1, no. So this is even number. So it's going to print it out because here we ask print I. So 16 is odd, no. It's going to print out. 17, the remainder by 2 is 1, yes. So 17 is odd and break. Break means jump outside for loop and done. Done means here, right? Print done is the out of the for loop. So break is really nice way of control. So nested loops. So guys, this is like if else, means you can have as many as full 4 statements. It depends on your your case study, your scenario, that how you want to have these 4s, like that we call them nested 4, that they are going to be more than 1 4. So it's going to say for num in range 10, for this number of values, that's that's range 10 means 0 to 9. And then for that 0 to 9, it's going to say, sorry, not 0 to 9, 1 to 9. So it's going to say for each of them, again, create another 4 and, print these values. So let's check that. It says num in range 10. So here, let me say range 10. So, yeah, if we don't mention start, yeah, start is 0. Sorry guys, I did mistake here. Start is 0. So it says for num in range 10. So num is firstly 0. So it says again we have another for loop for I in range 0. So range 0 we don't have range 0. It's return nothing. It's return null. Okay. Since the output is null, so 0, we have nothing for 0, and then it's going to jump up. Num is now number 1. So when it's number 1, it says I in range 1. So range 1 means, can you see, range 1 means 0, right? It means I is 0 because I is 0. It says print num is 1, and end with, white space. So since we have number 1, only one number, that's the reason we have number 1. So num is, let's get back to 10. So now num is 2, right? So num is 2. It's going to print 2. I in range 2, here is going to be 2, right? We have 2 numbers. Since we have 2 numbers, that's the reason it's going to print out 2 and 2. Why? Because here, so let me show you if you didn't get the point. Let me add one code here. So here means for, I want to elaborate the second line. For, oh my God, I don't know why. Okay, so this one for I in range num, right? This is now this one. It's going to be for I in 0 and 1, right? Because num was number 2, range 2. So I here is now number 0. So for I in range num, print num. So num is 2, right? Regardless of whatever we have here. So num is 2 is going to print out 2 and end space. Can you see after 2 we have white space? And then I is number 1, right? I is number 1. Again, it asks to print out num. So again, regardless of anything inside this, you know, list, is going to just print out the num, you know, the actual input. So print out number 2, and then I is going to be beyond the list. Since it's not possible, that's the reason. It's going to close it and then jump up to repeat, you know, the first 4, and then it's gonna be range. Sorry, and then if we say 10 here, then it's going to be number 3, right? And it's going to continue. So, and then you can have, you know, this output. It's just going to show you that we can have, you know, more than 1 4 as you wish. Guys, in terms of complexity, I mean CPU complexity, because this is CPU is a computation unit, and if you have many nested for, it's not really considering as advanced coding, because for loop, if you remember from data structure and algorithm module, you practiced big O, right? You practiced about big O, right? Big O, sorry, big O notation, or let's say O notation. Big O notation, and you consider some algorithm has, you know, the complexity of n, have complexity of, you know, log n, and so on. So I'm just going to mark, you know, this part, that having more for nested for, it's going to make CPU busy, right? It's going to make unnecessary CPU busy, and it's better to convert your code if there is any way. I'm not saying this is a task you have to do that, you know, for any case study, any programming, but if there is any way to avoid adding, you know, many nested for, it's better to avoid that. Otherwise, it's going to increase the time complexity of your algorithm. So by the way, in this case, right, in this example, we can't do anything else. This is the only way to print out, you know, this output, and that's the reason we have no way. We have to go ahead with 2 nested for loops. So exercise 3, calculate the sum of all numbers in the list through different ways. Okay, great. Using while loop, using for loop, using a built-in Python function. So also we can take it for tutorial session. It means we have a list of numbers like here. Like here, let's say list num. I don't know, let's say 1, 2, 50, 30, 10. Just, you know, put it as random input, -4, 2.4, whatever. And then we have to calculate the summation using while loop, using for loop, and using, you know, a built-in function, because there is a function that we call sum. So sum is the function in Python that you can calculate, like this one. So by the way, this is the answer for this one, built-in. So, but let's practice it in tutorial to see how we can, I mean, write this code to calculate the summation of all numbers using while or for or built-in. Okay, great. Any question about for loop? Guys, as I said, for loop is still similar to other programming languages because the concept is same, right? The way of considering, the way of using is different. That's the reason that we have to practice to see how to use for loop and also a conditional statement, you know, in Python. Okay, handling exception. So handling exception means, yeah, this is the last part. Yeah, handling exception means you ask user to enter integer value. So, but user enter string, enter text, enter symbol, and anything else. So, if he or she, you know, the end user is going to enter a wrong input, then you will face with system error or logical error. So, how to control it? Like here, if I say, for instance, let's say, I don't know, let's say if I wrongly say A is 2, but I wrongly enter 2 as a text, not as integer, right? And if I say A power like 4, right, is going to give system error because it says 2 is a string, it's not integer. So how to control these, typical problems that we usually face with that? Because programmers, developers, analyzers, they never predict the all stages of coding because you cannot predict what's going on to happen. Otherwise, you put your code under the test. If you put your code under the test with different type of inputs, and then you would be, you would be happy with your code, and it will never happen with error. So also, as the business point of view, it's better to avoid showing error message to end user. Let's say you work with Google. I mean, you want to check your mail in Google website. So what happened if Google show you the system error? So it's really bad. It's not really professional. So we have to avoid that. So how to avoid that? We just need to use this block, try and accept. Try is, your normal way of coding. You can add your normal way of coding, and accept is going to control the error instead of showing error message to an user. You can do a reasonable task. You can do a reasonable message, and so on. Let's see that. So, for instance, in this practice, this is a random list, including integer and some letters. So I want to, add them. I want to calculate the summation, right? So this is a random list. For entry in random list, entry is a index is going to start from first index. So can you see, guys, this part, these two lines, print and total, this is my actual code, but I'm putting inside try. It means if there is any error that I couldn't predict, if any error that I don't know what is that, right? Run it. If you face with error, go to exception part. So let's trace it. So entry in random list, try except. So in the try we write our actual code. The entry is 10. As you can see, the entry is 10. So total is 0. 0 plus 10. So can you see we convert the value to integer? So 0 plus 10 is 10. Okay, total is 10. Then we have to again go through 4. So we never touch except until we are facing with error. So entry in random list. Now entry is number 4. So print out the entry is 4. We can see that the entry is 4. Total is 10. We had it 10 before. 10 plus 4 is 14. Okay, great. Then we have to repeat. Entry is number 1. The entry is 1. So the entry is 1. So total is 11 plus 1. 14 plus 1 is 15. Okay, great. So now entry is A. So print the entry is A. So the entry is A. So it's going to say 15 plus int A. So we cannot convert A to the integer value, and there is system error. So instead of showing system error, if you have except, Python compiler is going to execute exception. It's going to print, oops, there is an error. Can you see? Oops, there is an error. Break. Break means finish the code. I mean, go outside and jump outside of the for loop. So it's jumping out. Print the total is total. Can you see the total is 15 because we have already calculated. So can you see how we could manage the code without printing any error message to end user? We could handle the code. We could handle this program by using break, right? It's going to break that. So this is the simple way of try and accept. If you want to make it a bit advanced, so let's take this example. So in this example, we didn't change this try part, we changed except part. So if except, I said except exception as E. If you add exception in the except part, it's going to print out exactly the name of the error. The error is going to print out, let's say the error library or error message that you're facing. So I'm adding this line, print, oops, and then E dot, double underline class and double underline. This one is going to print out the type of the error and occurred. And errors, I want to count how many errors, and then print. So print means, this one means just simply add one free line. This one line with white space, one free line, new line, printing nothing. So the difference is here, as if I want, here I said print, oops, there is an error, but I change it to the type of the error here, e.class, and here I've added the number of errors, and here instead of using break, I use print. Why? Because I want to go through all values in the list. So it's really advanced. So again, let's do a start. So here we have 10, entry is 10, so print 10, and 10 plus 0 is 10. We are here, first line. Then 4, so it's going to print out 4, right? Because here print, the entry is 4, and 10 plus 4 is 14. Great. Go to 4 again. So entry now is number 1. So the entry is 1. So the entry is 1, and total was 14. 14 plus 1 is 15. Now entry is A, right? So try print, the entry is A, so the entry is A. So total is 15 plus int A. So there is system error. Since there is a system error, it's not going to show us the error message. It's going to go through except block. So in the except block, it's going to print oops e.class. Can you see oops class value error? So this is the error classification. The error happened here is from value error. It's going to tell you there is the value error if you want to print it out. If you want to print out the type of the error, and then occurred, then errors is errors plus 1. So errors was 0, and now 0 plus 1 is 1. So now we faced with one error. And can you see here's print this one, print this one is going to print out one empty line. So again, we have to continue because we didn't say break. Now entry is 1. So the entry is number 1. So can you see the entry is number 1? So total was 15, right? 15 plus 1 is 16. Okay, great. Move on. Then 18. So the entry is 8. Oh, sorry, it's 8. Right? The entry is going to say the entry is 8. Okay, 8. Then total was 16. 16 plus 8 is 24. Okay, great. Jump here. Entry now is B. So print, the entry is B. Can you see the entry is B? And is going to say 24 plus B. Again, we face with system error. It's going to print out again this message. Oops, e.class. Oops, class is value error occurred. And error was 1, now is 2, right? 1 plus 1, 2 means we face with 2 errors. And then once you traverse till end of the list, and then it's going to jump here, right? It's going to finish the for loop, and we are here. The total is. So can you see, guys, we could successfully aggregate the result here. 10 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 8 plus 4, regardless of these letters. And also with the number of errors, also we could collect the errors, the number of errors. We had 3 errors, right? A, B, D. These are the errors. We had 3 errors. And this is really nice coding that, gives this opportunity, this chance to handle the code without any system error using try and except.